Good afternoon, everybody. Now, this is the sixth and final week of our summer preaching series where we've been following Matthew Kelly, the famous Catholic author's latest book. We've said that we can't avoid the messiness of life, can we? But when we lean into the stillness of God to fill up that void, that emptiness in our lives, we can find purpose. We can find clarity. Keep on knocking at the door in prayer in the midst of the mess. We've said that we can bring a new rehumanization to our lives simply by being rich in what matters to God. We can counter the thoughtlessness that's all around us by being ready, prepared, vigilant, and therefore thoughtful to be Christ and to see Christ in others. We've said that life is difficult for all of us at all different times in our life. So just embrace the ordinary. Embrace the ordinary people, ordinary situations, routines in our life that can give us joy, that can keep our heads up high. And if you ever have been stuck, if you've been stuck in the past or in the present, strive. Keep on striving to find renewal, to find that life can be amazing. Well, today we're going to finish up the series, and I just encourage you to continue to read Matthew Kelly's book. We're going to pick up on page 89 and following. It's been an amazing book for so many of you who've told me you've been reading along with it. Just a little public service announcement. We're going to start our fall series in 2 weeks, and I'm so excited about it. I've been excited actually for a couple years to do this series. It's called 8th Grade Faith. So that'll start the weekend of September 10th and 11th. You don't want to miss it as we kick off faith formation and a lot of our fall activities around here. Well, with that in mind, I know that our kids here in Pennsylvania, sadly, unfortunately, going back to school this week. Sorry, guys. And I see some maybe visitors from maybe New York or New Jersey. You guys have a week or two left. So enjoy your last breath of summer that you guys have. I'm sure you're so excited, kids, right? I'm super excited because as I remind myself every year, I'm not going back to school. And parents, I'm sure you're teary-eyed seeing your kid go out the door once again for this upcoming year. Maybe it's a milestone year. Maybe it's your kindergartner who's going out for the first time. Maybe you have a senior that's going out. And I'm sure that secretly or not so secretly, the parents are excited too that summer is coming to an end. And of course, in all seriousness, we bless our teachers, our administrators, those who work in our schools for a blessed year this year. There's new possibilities every year this time of year. It's my favorite time of year. I'm sure it is for you, for the fall colors coming, for football and baseball playoffs, all kinds of beautiful things in the fall season. And it's a time, whether you're a student or not, for newness, for new opportunities, new possibilities, for all of us to think about that sense of newness. And so Matthew Kelly asked this question of us in this part of the book. He asked this: how might God be calling you to walk down a new path in life? How might God be calling you to walk a new path in life? So for kids, it could be a new activity like soccer or band or perhaps scouts. For many of you, it might be just a new routine or a new hobby that you pick up, a new friendship that you connect with a person here. Maybe you recently moved here and you're looking for connections, and perhaps you're connecting with a new job, new employment, new opportunities. We all have that opportunity for newness. And to start out, we all need a plan. It's good for kids, whether you're in elementary school or in college, to set goals for yourself, to think about where you want to be in a year's time. We have to have a starting point in order to assess ourselves and have certain goals. So to look at that And look what the starting point could be. I want to look at our first reading for today that we heard at Mass. It's from the book of Sirach in the Old Testament. The book of Sirach was a collection of sayings or proverbs from a guy named Jeshua ben Sirach. He was a teacher. He was a wise man, a sage, we call it. Not a wise guy, but a wise man, a teacher. And these are collections of his sayings. And it gives us a perfect starting point for our goals and our aspirations, what we heard today. So the first saying, the first proverb, is for all children. Whether you're young or old, or if you consider yourself a child, here's what Jeshua ben Sirach tells you. He says, "My child, conduct your affairs with humility, and you will be loved more than a giver of gifts. Humble yourself the more, the greater you are, and you will find favor with God." So my friends, humility is always the starting point. Recognizing that we aren't God. There is a God, it's not us. We need God. And that calling to humility before others, especially to seek wisdom. Notice here that this wise teacher is telling us that we can be amazing influencers simply by being humble and showing and expressing humility. You want to influence others, be humble. You know, think about this. How are people, especially your loved ones, going to remember you? They're probably not going to remember you for your title or for your intellect or for your GPA or for all your achievements or for whatever success you have in life. They're going to remember you for how you treat them. They're going to remember you for the kindness and humility you showed them or not. So that's a wise lesson for kids of all ages. Be humble this year. And next, Jeshua ben Sirach gives a teaching for all athletes and all students, young and old. He says this: "What is too sublime for you, seek not, and to things beyond your strength, search not." It's a reminder to all athletes, all students, to know your limits. Know what you don't know. If you can learn one thing this year in school, in whatever subjects you're best at, learn what you don't know. And then be humble about it to say, "I don't know." That's perfectly okay. And then say, "I'll get back to you." And along those lines as well, don't forget about a certain room in your school. It's called the library. I want to celebrate and point out unsung heroes, librarians. We, in fact, have a wonderful library right down the street here in the Middle Smithfield Cultural Center, a public library. All your schools have libraries, and actually, my brother Steve is beginning his 10th year as a librarian in the Washington, D.C. Public School District. So I want to give a shout out to my brother Steve and all librarians. He's been at the same school for 10 years. You guys are unsung heroes. So students, athletes, all of you, seek wisdom and humility. Know what you don't know. Then, Jeshua ben Sirach speaks to teachers and to coaches and to mentors. He says this. He says, "The mind of a sage appreciates proverbs, and an attentive ear is the joy of the wise." Now, I've been a teacher. My mother is a retired teacher. I have the highest respect for teachers. And I know there are moments where you're going to be frustrated. I know there are going to be moments where you are going to be overwhelmed. You might be tempted to become cynical, to just go through the motions. The best teachers themselves are learners. They are learners who give an attentive ear to learn more and more, to grow in wisdom. The best teachers as well are good listeners to their own students, to really connect at the heart, the level of the heart and mind with the students and the athletes that they're connecting with. So teachers, mentors, coaches, be humble to keep on learning yourself to gather wisdom. The last thing we'll look at, Jeshua ben Sirach, this wise sage, he gives to all of us. He says this: "Water quenches a flaming fire, and alms atone for sins." What does that mean? Well, basically, like water will quench a flaming fire, when we think of others, especially of the poor, that can cover up anything. It can atone for many sins. So whatever opportunities you have this year, whatever efforts you put forth, whatever goals you might have, be humble to recognize the people around you as well, the people who maybe don't have the same opportunities as you. Have a care and concern for your other classmates, for those who are struggling. Have a care and concern for the poor, because showing generosity in any way can go a long way, can atone for sin. Just a little story about myself. So in 2005, I was still a student. I was in seminary, and I had just completed 2 years of my theology studies. The bishop at the time, in 2005, had transferred me and several other seminarians from one seminary to another. So I was expecting down at St. Charles Borromeo Seminary in Wynwood, Pennsylvania, right near West Philadelphia, next to St. Joseph University. I was expecting to enter into my 3rd year of theology studies. Well, it turns out the academic dean, when I first arrived on campus, called me into his office and he said, "Greg, I'm looking at your transcripts here, and guess what? You took a bunch of classes. We have no equivalent here at St. Charles. Therefore, we're going to have to put you back a year." And I said, "What? I got A's in all those classes. Are you kidding me?" I was so angry. I was so angry for an entire semester. I went into chapel every morning on my knees, yelling at God, "God, why did you bring me to this place? I can't believe it. You delayed my ordination by an entire year." And by the way, my mother was so angry, she was going to slap the bishop too. So I was on my knees for an entire semester, just pouring out this anger at God. And it turns out that the motto of the seminary at St. Charles Borromeo is humilitas, which is Latin for humility. Is perhaps the most important lesson I learned in all of my studies, humility. And I even have the t-shirt to show it. See right there, it says humility on it. Well, my friends, the starting point for all new beginnings, for all new knowledge, for aspiring to set your goals in life is humility. And Matthew Kelly is a very wise man. And in the course of the book, in this section in the book, he gives us a kind of checklist to assess our life, that we can set goals and aspirations for this year and always. So he calls this little checklist the 4 absolutes. The 4 absolutes. It's language taken from sobriety movements like AA and other recovery movements. And if you know anything about AA, these 4 absolutes are sometimes used in the 4th step of the 12 steps, when a person does a fearless self-assessment of their life. So we can use this for ourselves for this year to set any goals in our life, to look at ourselves, look at our attitudes, look at our action. The first one is honesty. Are we honest in telling the truth in our words, in our deeds? That's honesty. The second one is unselfishness. Are we thinking about others when we make decisions? Are we thinking about others in what we say and what we do? And to make that a relentless habit in our life. That's being unselfish. Are we pure? Purity is not just sexual purity or chastity. It's a clarity of intent. Do we act in line with our consciences? In other words, when we say something or do something, is it right or not? Are we acting in line with what we know is right or what we know is wrong? That's purity. And last, love. Love specifically here is meant to be about bringing beauty into the world. Are our words and our actions bringing beauty instead of ugliness into the world around us? So honesty, unselfishness, purity, and love. Well, as we wrap up this series, this great wise book that Matthew Kelly's given us, I know that it's triggered some people because we've talked about some very heavy topics and difficult things that have maybe been very probing. But I want to end in this positive note. And this week, bring these things to prayer. I have these 4 absolutes listed in the bulletin. Perhaps journal about them. Write them down. How are you doing? And then I challenge even the kids and the adults to set certain goals based on this self-assessment for your life this year. If not for the whole year, then maybe for a few months. How do you want to grow in your life? And how do you want, in the midst of the messiness, to humbly find God's blessing? So bottom line in this whole series, this whole book, is that we know that life is messy. We can't avoid it. We are humble. We are humble before God and before others. We can also indeed amazingly find that life is beautiful as well. Amen.